Ladies and gentlemen, today we got the news that James Harden is in fact interested in teaming up in Philadelphia with Joel Embiid and his former GM Daryl Morey. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you probably have been following the news surrounding James Harden for the past few weeks. However, if you're not, I'm going to quickly break down the timeline of the past couple and few weeks surrounding James Harden being in the news. So 2 weeks ago, Harden requested a trade to the Brooklyn Nets. Yes, the Brooklyn Nets to team up with Kyrie and KD. And if you're like me and you like seeing a balanced league, this definitely worried you. I was shivering being a Lakers fan. However, that trade has not gone through yet, as Harden does not need to be traded. He is currently in a contract. Moving forward, the next week, the Houston Rockets traded Russell Westbrook, their point guard, for John Wall from the Wizards. And that had a little bit of buzz around it. But then this past week, the Houston Rockets have actually had training camps in which John Wall released a couple of videos. He's looking pretty tough as a Houston Rocket. However, James Harden has been partying with Lil Baby and hasn't come to any of these training camps and practices. So in my mind, it looks like he's trying to play his card, hold his leverage, but we will see where he ends up. Now, today the news comes out from a source that Harden is actually interested in joining Philadelphia, the Philadelphia 76ers, and teaming up with Joel Embiid and his former GM, Daryl Morey. Now, the question today is, where is Harden most likely to land, and is he really even going anywhere? So, in order to answer this question, we first need to understand the most important part of the puzzle of James Harden, and that is that Harden is currently under a massive contract, right? So he, until the 2023 season, when he has a player option, he has an obligation to play for Houston, right? They don't have to trade him. He is under a contract obligation. He is currently making $40 million this next year. So, this news is interesting that Harden wants to leave. However, he doesn't have the owners of the Rockets don't have to put him anywhere, right? Like, it's nice that he wants to go, but unless they see a fit that they can get rid of him, he will be in Houston, right? So that's the one thing that is responsible for what is going to happen. The fact that Houston doesn't have to move him yet. And we all know that Harden is one of the biggest faces in the leagues, and the Rockets are not going to give him up, guys, for Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, these type of guys. They want a pound-for-pound guy that they can get back, such as, some players that we will be speaking on later. So the next question is really, could Harden go to the Nets? Unless a miracle happens, guys, I don't see Harden going to the Nets. This is just because of the fact that I just spoke about. They already have KD, Kyrie, so adding Harden and the fact that he is a $40 million player per year, those three, Harden, KD, and Kyrie, would fill up their cap space, and they really would have their hands tied. They'd only be able to add basic minimum guys, veteran contracts, rookie contracts, 2 mil or under pretty much, as their hands would be tied. And really, Brooklyn doesn't have the assets unless they want to swap for Kyrie, in which I don't think Houston's interested, because we all know that Kyrie would not want that. And then what's the point of bringing James to Brooklyn if Kyrie's gone? Then there's no big three, and Houston doesn't want to have Kyrie's antics of not wanting to play there on their books. So is Harden going to end up in the Nets, guys? I don't really think so. Which brings me to the next question and the news today. Does Philly actually work? Does James Harden fit well with Philadelphia's organization? To be honest, I actually think it's a great fit. I think it's pretty much the only fit in the league for Harden right now. So we will see if that ends up happening. Not to mention, as I already spoke about, the new general manager of Philadelphia is in fact Daryl Morey, and he was Harden's guy in Houston that set up, the getting all the pieces for D'Antoni and Harden's offense. Philly has the assets, right? The trade would likely be Harden for Ben Simmons straight up, or a few draft picks added on from Philly's side, because at this point Harden does have a bit more superstar in him than Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons still needs to find his jumper. However, it would be an interesting trade. It works in terms of contracts. Harden's current contract or salary this year is $40 million. Ben Simmons is a bit under. He is currently at $30 million a year. However, Philly actually just got rid of Al Horford and freed up some cap space. So they could probably do 1-for-1 trade, or they could add a few minimum contract guys on their deal. Now, would Simmons and John Wall be a nice duo? We'll have to wait and see. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. And would Harden and Joel be an elite duo? I think this trade makes tremendous sense for both teams. Wall and Simmons, they are both guards, but they're definitely younger than Harden and Westbrook. Houston ends up getting younger. They get a ton of speed. If Simmons can just get a jumper at all, that team looks pretty scary. And not to mention, they just added DeMarcus Cousins as a backup 5. And if this were to happen, I see John Wall as staying as the 1 guard. Ben Simmons would likely move to the 3, or maybe even play a small 5 up in Houston with the way the NBA is moving now. And James with Embiid, that fits. Embiid, as we like to see him with his back to the basket, he can shoot the 3 ball, right? So if you put him in a pick and roll with James Harden, I wouldn't want to guard that personally, because Joel Embiid can hit from 3 at a relatively consistent rate, and then he's always a lob threat. And pick and pop, pick and roll, that is lethal. Plus they've added Danny Green, Seth Curry to space the floor, and Dwight Howard to come off the bench, and he'd be a great pick and roll player similar to Capella with Harden. So ladies and gentlemen, I do see this as being definitely viable. So we shall see in the coming future if this does end up becoming the deal, James Harden for Ben Simmons, as I see it as being pretty much the only fit for this trade. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, have a good day. Thank you.